Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, Rays, and today we're taking a look at the Final Fantasy IX characters. Yes, the data is out. For anybody who is wondering, no, there is no data for CG Y'shtola yet. CG Y'shtola, or Dark Y'shtola, or whatever she ends up being at some point, will not be added to the game until later in the month. So, and by later in the month, I mean later in the month of July. Because she is not coming until the end of the month, so don't get too excited. For now, all we have to look forward to is the FF9 characters, so let's talk about that. And you know what, we're going to play random today when it comes right down to it. Zorn and Thorn as well as Fratley are okay, but nothing really interesting. We want to talk about the 5-star characters, so I'm going to pick a random animation. I don't remember which order I put these in, so let's just see who we end up picking first. Freya. Alright, Freya first. She waited a long time to finally become a 5-star, and now Freya is here. Freya ended up being a pretty interesting character for a couple of reasons, least of which is just kind of her stats. She has Divine Ruination chaining, she has AT chaining, she has Stardust Ray chaining, and she has AR, or I just cannot pronounce that tonight. I've been streaming Shadowbringers for multiple hours. Anyway, she has a lot of different chaining families. What's interesting too is her stat-wise, she has really a good amount of HP, as well as interestingly, a lower defense, but can put more points into the defense, unless that's a mistake by the bot, because she's supposed to be an attacker healer. Equipment-wise, basically only spears and armor. And looking at her limit burst is very interesting. For one thing, it is maxed out in 7-star, a physical damage of 18 times with a 50% defense ignore, which is pretty strong, but it adds a 15 times mod for 11 turns that cannot be dispelled to Spinning Leap, Bramisian Dragon Rally, that's just not translating right, Holy Dragon, and Dragon Sprint, and her limit burst is only 30 limit burst crystals, so it is a big modifier up. Her limit burst is super important, but it is only important in that you only need to use it really once for a good long time. And the fact that these buffs cannot be dispelled is really amazing. Other than that, in her kit, she has a really high increase of 150% extra jump damage just to start. She will get extra jump damage and extra true dual hand for beating, the Necron fight. She will also have just extra attack for wielding a single weapon naturally in her kit. Bonuses for equipping a spear, both attack and spirit. TMR will give her 100% true dual hand, plus 150% extra jump damage, more MP, extra attack, and a limit first fill rate of 150%. Not a huge amount of passives in her kit, but what is there is so incredibly important to her. And yes, for beating the Necron trial as well, she will get Lunatic Aura, which is a cooldown, 10-turn cooldown available turn 1, gives her 6 turns of a 250% attack boost, with a 10% modifier boost for some of her abilities for 6 turns. In her kit, she does have a heal 15,000 HP split over 5 turns for allies, so a pretty strong regen. Spinning Leap, which cures some status effects to her, cures breaks to her, and does a jump delay attack of 2.5 by itself, but remember, she can give this attack a big mod increase by using her limit burst. She has Dragon Sword, which is a HP MP drain, and increase limit burst gauge to all allies by 5, pretty nice. Increase invocation gauge by I think 7 points, inflict blind, sleep, confuse, and some poison to the caster, but not really a big deal. She can you can just put some status immunity on her, and she'll be totally fine. Continuing on, she has another ability, which is a jump ability, but it is physical damage with a physical damage time jump ability after 2. So she actually has chaining. She has a chaining and jump. Now I haven't tested it yet, or I haven't heard of anybody who tested it yet, so I'm not entirely sure how the chaining works with the jumps, whether the chaining is during the jump or after the jump or with the jump. But it is. I think the way it is it is a land and then chain, as it seems to be. But it could be chaining then jumping. Either way, this is a new thing for Dragoons, and it is a welcome one. She has another one that is AT chaining, and she has another one that is Stardust Ray chaining. So all of these things are really quite interesting. There's also a 25 times mod on her time jumps. So her time jumps are incredibly strong, especially with all the jump damage she has in her kit. So I think Freya is probably going to be the absolute queen of Dragoons, if not for this new chain and jumping, for the very simple reason that she has something that is really cool here, which is a fairly good amount of healing support for the party too. So I like that a lot. Getting into her 7-star, she has a 5-turn cooldown available turn 1, which is a 15,000 HP heal split over 3 turns with a 300 MP heal split over 3 turns. So pretty good healing again, not consistently accessible, but pretty powerful over 3 turns. And a 5-turn cooldown available in turn 5. Physical damage with a 35 times mod to all enemies, restore 5,000 HP and 100 MP to all allies, and physical damage 35 times jump to one enemy. And I do believe this is another one that will get a boost, I do believe, and it is AR chaining. So very interesting to see just high modifiers on Freya as well as cool healing abilities. I gotta say, Freya looks like an absolutely amazing unit to UOC, especially if you've been missing a lot of the Summon Fest units in terms of a chain finisher. Alright, now, so Freya, as far as I'm concerned, seems like a big thumbs up. She will easily be able to compete with Sid in terms of Dragoon units, and she's a different new type of Dragoon unit, so yeah, my overall impression of her is very positive. Continuing on, let's see who's next. Queena, the free unit. Now, Queena is a blue mage, and she is classified as a AT and Chaos Wave chainer. Looking at her kit, most extra points put into magic. Her base magic stat's only 209 though, so it's not overly impressive, but she has a really high spirit too, 208 with an extra 40 points put in there, 65 put in to her magic. So her stats are pretty darn decent, especially for a free unit, better than I thought she would be. Spears, bows, rods, guns, and flails also give her a fairly decent weapon selection, although I will say that her armor selection is basically just like clothing, to be expected, but less exciting to be sure. She does have a way to increase the evocation gauge, and she does have in her only other innate ability for clearing the trial will be a 4-turn cooldown available turn 1. Increase wind and earth resistance 100% for 3 turns to all allies, and grant a 5,000 HP barrier. Wind and earth resistance 100%, nothing really that exciting, but a 5,000 HP barrier for 3 turns to allies is kind of a really nice support, especially for people who have been lacking a good barrier generator. So, continuing on, her passives are pretty short list for beating the trial. She'll get extra defense, MP, and counter physical and magical attacks with Food Finder, which is a mitigate damage taken 40% for 3 turns to all allies, which is kind of an interesting thing. She counters by actually giving 40% damage mitigation, pretty high. Bonus spirit, MP, when equipped with a spear, or as we all know it, a fork. MP as well, 40%. She has paralyzing confuse resistance. She has extra defense and HP, defense for equipping I think, clothing. TMR, Super TMR gives her more magic and spirit, as well as some magic true dual hand too. So she does have a little bit of extra stats there, and an extra 50% for getting her to 120, some extra defense, and yeah. So passive and kit wise by herself doesn't sound that impressive, but that's because most of her stuff she gets from beating different challenges in the game. I should also say that Frog Drop is her level 7. At her level 5 is Limit Glove. Her level 6 is Pumpkinhead, but her level 7 is Frog Drop, so nice detail work, Alum. Magic damage maxed out 15 times mod, ignoring 50% spirit to all enemies. Not amazing, but for 28 limit burst crystals, it's pretty cheap. The abilities that she gets for clearing Quest 1, Mighty Guard, 150% defense and spirit for 3 turns to all allies, 20% physical mitigation, 20% magic mitigation for 3 turns, and a 3000 HP barrier. Pretty nice defensive ability. Angel Snack, cure all ailments to all allies. And last one in Quest 1 gives her a fixed damage of 1000 to one enemy and magic damage 10 times mod per turn for 3 turns to one enemy. Quite sounds like a curse ability, but anyway, continuing on. Quest 2 will give her some other abilities. Aqua Breath, a HP damage 25% to all enemies. Kind of an interesting that it's a percentage. I wonder how it works with bosses. It sounds like gravity, meaning they'll probably not work on bosses, but okay. She has White Wind as well. 2,500 HP mod with, or 2,500 HP with an 18 times mod to all allies, and heals 6,300 with a 36 times mod split over 3 turns to all allies. So seems like a pretty strong little healing ability on her too. Good for people who don't have a white mage. Quest 3 will give Goblin Punch, which is magic damage, ignores some spirit, 7.5 times mod, and increases a mod as well for Goblin Punch. Is AT chaining too, so that's where her AT chaining comes from. And last one I do believe is Re-Raise, Auto Revive with 1% HP for 3 turns to one ally. It's okay. Quest 4 will give Twister, basically, you know, it looks like it is a Chaos Wave chaining ability, debuffs wind resistance, 100% for 3 turns to all enemies, ignores spirit too, which is kind of interesting, and she has a Earth Chaos Wave chaining ability, Earth Shake, basically the same thing, backloaded chaining damage, 14 times mod on the big hit, so pretty good. And clearing Quest 5 gives Breath, inflict all status ailments, 80% to all enemies. So overall, I gotta say she seems pretty cool. She's definitely better than Blue Mage Queena at the moment. Some of her abilities are quite nice and very defensive. I would say that she ended up being much better than I thought she was going to be. So as a free unit, thumbs up, nothing to complain about. Moving on. Next up will be, we already talked about Freya. Zidane, I'm actually going to veto for the end here. We're going to talk about everybody's favorite boy, Vivi, and this is one that I think the community has been waiting for a long time, and good news for the community, Vivi turned out pretty good. 219 base magic with a extra 40 points put in, fairly decent HP, defense, not so great, spirit, okay. But I wish they, unless it's a misprint, 40 points only extra into magic is a little disappointing. Staffs, rods, you know, he's a mage, yeah, get what you expect kind of thing. Trinity is kind of limit burst, where he will deal dark damage with a 15.5 times mod, ignoring 50% spirit, and decrease fire, ice, and lightning resistance 120% for 5 turns to all enemies. Nice to see the 120% debuff and a pretty strong magic damage attack that is dark damage too. In his kit, for passives, he has, you know, magic and MP, 5% MP per turn, an extra 5% MP per turn. Clearing a trial will give him defense, HP, and MP, either dual wield or true dual hand magic, so you have a little freedom of how you want to build him. Extra some elemental resistance of fire, ice, and lightning when equipped with the rod, as well as more magic boosts, more magic boosts for equipping TMR, more spirit boosts for equipping TMR, more blah blah blah, increase to some magic bonuses. I mean, true dual wield, true dual hand magic, of course, defense and spirit, increased limit burst damage of 100%, as well as a 2 times modifier up for shock wand, frozen wand, and blaze wand. which gets us into his kit. For beating the trial as well, he gets a magic damage of 40 times with ignoring 50% spirit. So he has some really powerful stuff. This is a 8-turn cooldown available turn 8, but that is a huge mod on a ability that is also ignoring a lot of spirit. He is a Chaos Wave Chainer, and pretty much as to be expected. He has a natural in his kit damage, Chaos Wave, and debuff all 3 elements. His main elements, which for the rest of this, let's just say fire, ice, and lightning. 80% for each. He does have some elemental abilities that also can cause some status effects that are just magic damage. He has W cast black magic. He has Blaze Wand, which increases the limit burst gauge 1 to 3 for all allies, which is kind of interesting. Quad Wall, which gives 70% of 3 elemental resistance to all allies. Mitigate damage. Magic damage taken 30% for 3 turns to all allies. W casting of his abilities naturally in his kit. 7-star. He gets his Flame, Ice, and Thunder big Chaos Wave chaining ability, which are 7.5 times mods, which can increase with use. Max 6 times, 2.5 times, so at 22.5 maxed out for each one. Also increases a modifier 7.5 times for one of his abilities at the end. So using all 3 of these will greatly increase one of his most powerful black mage abilities, which interestingly enough looks to be incredibly strong, which is a dark ability, magic ability. I believe it's supposed to be Doomsday, which has a 7.5 mod on its own. But if you power it up multiple times, it should be incredibly strong. His cooldowns are a 3-turn cooldown available turn 1. Increase magic 250% for 5 turns to the caster. Enable for 6 turns to the caster. Quadra casting. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, so BB can always have quadra casting up. There's almost no reason not to. And a 5-turn cooldown available turn 1. Decrease dark damage 120, or dark resistance 120% for 2 turns to all enemies. Increase dark resistance 100% for 2 turns to all allies. And enables quadra casting. So yeah, VV is a very powerful mage. There is no doubt about that. I think that while he has some really nice mods, his magic stat could have been a little bit better, unless it's a misprint, in which case I take it back. But VV looks really strong. Triple elements, Chaos Wave Chainer, which I'm not going to hold against him because it's VV, and let's be nice. Okay, we've been waiting a long time for 5-star VV, and VV's kit seems to be a really, you power him up a whole bunch of times and just blast the enemy down with dark damage, and that's pretty cool. That's very true to VV. Alright, and the last one on the list is Zidane. Okay, and let's move Zidane up here at some point. Hey, mouse controls. Okay. And he is jumping for joy. He is an AR and Stardust Ray Chainer. He is physical damage. Again, I think that this might be misprinted, but maybe not. 50 points to each and every category, but not 65 to any. A lot of HP can be put into him, though. Base attack 207 with an extra 50 points put in. I don't think he is going to be the king of physical DPS, but he should be a very strong physical DPS. I've heard people go from saying that he is OP to being just okay. Here's the thing. Compared to Onion Knight, who is a top-tier chainer right now on JP side, although maybe not the most top-tier chainer, it seems like Zidane will be more than competent enough, because Zidane has a really... he has a pretty high mod of, I think, 120 times is what he can get up to, if I remember reading correctly. But the problem is he only essentially really has the wind element, and that is kind of a problem, because he just doesn't have the elemental selection that some other characters do have. 7-star Limit Burst maxed out as wind physical damage 17.5 times. To ignore defense 50 times to all enemies. By the way, the Limit Burst looks really cool. You should go check it out on Naz's channel, because Naz is a good guy, and support him. Enable skills for, at least I think it's on this channel. Anyway, enable skills for the caster for 6 turns, shift break, free energy, and the Twister ability also enables for 6 turns triple cast. 34 limit burst crystals. It's a pretty cheap limit burst. It seems to be more of a functional limit burst to unlock other abilities. Basically kind of sets him into trance mode, and that's pretty cool that we're getting that. Free energy. Backloaded Stardust Ray chaining damage, not super high mod, at least not the way I see it. Shift break has a defense break on it of 70, or an attack break for all enemies, and that is Stardust Ray chaining. And the Twister ability also Stardust Ray chaining. Sorry, and triple casting can basically activate any of these abilities as well. But the mods aren't super high, and I'm just not sure if those mods are powered or are missing something again in the data. We'll find out as we read the rest. Secret technique, auto cast at the start of battle or after being revived, which is basically gives W casting as well as some other abilities at the start. Continuing on, he has Cover a Girl, which basically 5% chance to protect a female ally. That may end up hurting him more than anything. Beating the trial will give him some extra true dual wield as well as 20% physical evasion, so probably worth it. Enables to acquire Gil when stealing, has Cure All status ailments after battle. He has True Dual wield in his kit, of course. Bonuses for equipping daggers to basically all stats, including attack, 7% MP per turn, increased successive stealing, 100%. He has the chain damage cap increase, 20% physical evasion naturally, so if you beat the trial, he has 40% physical evasion. Defense and spirit boosts, as well as, there we are, some extra to his 100% limit burst fill rate and some mod ups for his limit burst unlocks. More by equipping a TMR, super TMR, as well as stop and charm resistance, so he is immune to both of those. Autocast releasing power after being start of the fight, which is a limit burst gauge of 100%, so even after being revived, apparently he does get his limit burst, which is kind of interesting. HP up, 2 limit burst gauge per turn, and some more true dual wield in his kit. Seems perfectly fine there. As we get into his abilities, he has high speed dash, which is gives a mod up to those limit burst abilities again, as well as a evade 9 physical attacks for 9 turns to the caster. It is on a 10 turn cooldown, but that is a lot of evasion on top of already a lot of evasion. Also increase some modifiers for some other abilities and deals. Yeah, so there you go. Life Steal, obvious enough. Magic Steal, obvious enough. Buzz, steal, basically a steal ability. He has AR chaining with a 4.5 times mod. He has a damage decrease wind resistance 80% for 5 turns to all enemies, and add the wind element to his attacks. On an Stardust Ray chaining ability, that is in its 5-star, 6-star, he ends up with physical damage and recover 30 MP for all allies, Stardust Ray chaining, speed avoid, physical damage, Stardust Ray chaining, and evade 1 physical attack for 3 turns to all allies. This is an interesting thing. Backloaded physical damage, decreased wind resistance 120% on a Stardust Ray chaining for 3 turns. The debuff, sorry. In a 7-star, on a 7-turn cooldown available turn 1, he has a 250% attack boost for 5 turns and a evade 5 physical attacks for 5 turns to the caster. Speed Air, 5-turn cooldown available turn 1, increase wind resistance 100% for all allies. Evade 2 physical attacks for 3 turns to all allies. Build Edge, 4-turn cooldown available turn 4. Backloaded damage with the backloaded hit being a 25 times mod. Increased limit burst damage, 200% for 2 turns to the caster, cannot be dispelled, Stardust Ray chaining. And Sequence Edge's final ability, which is backloaded damage, increased modifier for some other, Sequence Edge itself, and increased modifier for 1 turn to Shift Break, Free Energy, and his Twister ability, and his Stardust Ray. So he's basically a Stardust Ray chainer, and while his mods may not be interesting, probably the most useful thing about Zidane is the fact that he has so much AoE Mirage that he can just constantly be using it, and really, the physical evasion game is exactly what Zidane brings to the party, and it will be really interesting to see how beneficial it is. But AoE Revive or AoE Dodge has been a consistently good ability in the past, so I think it'll be really good here. So Zidane, keep jumping for joy. You did good, lad. So here is the step up banner. It is a 5-step. You will see a guaranteed rainbow on step 1, step 3, with some limited tickets on step 2 and step 4, and a guaranteed unit on step 5. No rainbow uprates, which probably not the best thing, but hey, you're either going to spend or you're going to not, or you've saved up Lapis for this. Either way, both Vivi and Freya can be UOC'd, and I think that is really good news for anybody who is wanting to get either of these characters. I think you will be very good, very well served here. Zidane seems everything on this in the FF9 package looks great so far. The TMRs, the super TMRs, Vivi looks great for a UOC unit, Freya looks great for a UOC unit, and Zidane looks great for a Fest unit. So there's nothing really to overly complain about. Super happy with all of it. And as a side note for anybody on the global side, yes, I have kind of heard about everything that is going on. I will make a video about it maybe tomorrow, because it is about 2 a.m. here, and I'm going to upload this video. Go to sleep. But anyway, FF9 looks like good stuff. Now, if only Alum could get their shit together with the rest of the game. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time.